And we're live.
Hello.
Hey, welcome everybody. This is They Talk Funny. I'm Paul Ash, and with me is very special guest Martha Chavez.
Hello, Polly. How are you? Long time no see.
Long time no see. Long time no see. So if for those, wow, we actually have people tuning in already to see. This is great. And I guess I misspelled something. I apologize. It's Martha Chavez or Marta Chavez. If I want to be a little bit more correct. How are you doing? How have you been? How have you been through all of this?
Oh, you know, it's been great in a sense because I am a germaphobe, and now my fears are justified. So
Yes.
I wash my hands 100 times, and I have a reason for it. People don't think I'm weird, right? In the other hand, I an impatient person, so I have grown to be patient. And I have been missing comedy like life itself and pondering if it will ever be back. Can you hear me?
I can definitely, I can hear you, and it's I definitely feel you that about missing comedy. I believe it will be back. I think some of the online stuff will still exist afterwards, but when live stages are back, I think people are going to be hitting them with a vengeance.
I really think so too, that they will be hitting it with a vengeance, because even when we opened here in Toronto, when they opened in August, that were like very with all the cleaning protocols shows at Yak Yaks and at Comedy Bar, people were coming.
Yeah,
people wanted to laugh, you know.
And I mean they've got. We were open for about 3 weeks here in Montreal. I know that the Nest spaced out all the tables. The Wiggle Room had they put plexiglass. They redesigned the room, put plexiglass between all the seatings, and everything that they could to try to make it as safe and yet still have people in. Now, for people who are tuning in, just say hello, pop in, give us a like. Marta is a Nicaraguan Canadian comedian. She has had a CBC comic special. She's also had a special on the Comedy Network. She has an album out as well. If I remember, it's Chunky Salsa. That's the name of the album.
Chunky Salsa.
Chunky Salsa, which is available where?
In all of the platforms.
All of the platforms.
In all of the platforms is available. It came out last year, thank God, because of the revenue that the album has given me. Like, it has helped us to be afloat in a way.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I took a long time to put out an album. And that's why I call it salsa, because salsa is kind of like it has a base, but you can put whatever chunks of whatever you want, You can put tomatoes, you can put a lot of things.
Now, you've been a headliner for years, but it was just in like the last 2 years you really sort of started skyrocketing. I remember Kenny Robinson talking about how you've been on fire for the past year and just burning, like just before the lockdown happened. Like you
imagine my luck. Yeah.
No, you're also an actor, comedian. You're on is it CBC does Because News? Is that?
Yeah, on Because News. Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't see it in your bio, but I remember you being in a Chris Rock film, responding to Wanda Sykes.
Yes, that's I don't put it because it was such a small part. Although I was 13 days on set. But it was almost non-speaking part. I'm not very proud of it. And it was the stereotypical cleaning lady part. But I was with Wanda, and it's an enduring friendship. Not that we talk every day or anything, but we are friendly if we run into each other, let's say.
Yeah.
So she knows that my name is Marta Chavez. That's about it. I'm friends. We are friends. Yeah, she knows my name.
I like how there was the steps down degrading.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
we degraded. We are friends.
Yeah,
she can pick me out of a lineup. I'm like, I had forgotten that I had this with you, but that is one of the good things on the lockdown, that you just can go, Papa, put your makeup, and I'm ready. You don't have to take Uber, and ready for the show.
This is an incredibly just a casual thing. We are talking about comedy. We are going to be talking about writing. We're going to be talking about COVID and talking in general things about your career as well. You how many appearances have you had at the festival Just for Laughs? For those who may be watching who's not from here, I know I have an American comic on later this week. What?
How many times? Well, remember I used to host, what was the name? Globecom.
Oh, okay, yes, which would be the international show.
So I was there like 4 years in a row for that.
Yeah.
Then I have done 3 galas.
Yes.
And I have done the Spanglish show. I have done the, here in Toronto, I have done the JFL 42. I have done a podcast for JFL 42 with Marina. the last name escapes me, but you know what I mean. So I believe that I am from the JFL family in Canada. I find them, I find the people. I know Bruce, I know Brent from a long time. I know Zoe, even from the Rivoli, and they are family to my heart,
Yes, yeah. And you've not just limited yourself to performing in Canada. I know you went overseas to perform for the Canadian troops, but you've done other shows outside of Canada.
Oh yeah.
Well. Yeah.
Yes, it was interesting, the Canadian troops, because I did a joke that I used to do, and it's one of my hits that is evergreen. The joke about cocaine, that Latinos didn't bring cocaine to North America, that it's been around for years, and blah blah blah. Right, that joke.
Yeah.
And I am doing it in the Sinai Desert for the UN troops, and there were Colombian troops who were fighting the drug war, and they just heard the word cocaine. And Latino, they didn't even speak English. And from the sides of my eyes, how do you say that expression?
Or the corner of my eye?
From the corner of my eye, I see a bunch of people leaving the premises, like a platoon of people that look like, of soldiers that look Latino leaving the premises. And after I was informed that I offended them, that they got personally offended because they thought that I am, because I say the word Colombia on the joke, right. So they heard cocaine, Colombia, and they thought I'm dissing them, and they left. It was interesting, but I mean, I couldn't forgive me. Why didn't they tell me that this could happen? They vet your material, they should have said that.
Yeah, exactly. If your material was approved, and but in your when you've done the Spanglish shows, you mentioned about the fact that there is there's a conflict between a lot of the South American countries. Like they don't always get along. It's not just football that they argue over.
No, we don't get along. Unfortunately, it's like that. Unfortunately, because of long time disagreements, or it's like rivalries. Mm-hmm. Even in Central America, that we are so small, if you think about it, Nicaragua is about 6 million people, and like that, from region to region is very different, and we have animosity. I hate to say it. Mm-hmm. We have animosity, but here in Canada we learn. People from different countries, from the different Latin American countries, we learn to get along because we are a community. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you could hate the other Canadians.
I don't hate anybody. I hate everybody in general.
Yeah.
But not anybody in particular. You know what I mean?
I understand. You don't generalize your hatred. You'll find one or two people that are idiots that are deserving of it.
Like my hate, if you see my Facebook, my hatred is very unoriginal because I hate Trump with a passion.
I believe you're the person who's famous for coining the phrase
Mango Mussolini.
Yeah, Mango Mussolini. That's a brilliant turn, a good alliteration. And it's obvious. Like I see how much content you're putting out online in regards to
people must think that I don't work or I don't do anything because I always, but whatever I read like very fast, I gotta inform the people. I got to inform the people. But and now that he leaves, but now since I learned that he lost, it's like when I have precedent to this, like when Rob Ford left because he got sick and all of that, I just like forgot about him. So that's what I hope that happens with Trump. He will fade, and we will find somebody else to attack, or not.
You just kind of like the bar has been set a bit differently at this point in time about where exactly stupidity lives. But
speaking about stupidity, the bad part about the Trump phenomenon is that it has transcended borders.
Yeah.
Because here in Canada, there were like 2-3 weeks ago there were anti-maskers protesting at Dundas Square here in Toronto, and there were flags.
They walked Park in Montreal.
There were flags, the pro-Trump flags, and Make America, like, you're Canadians, what are you doing with that? And there was a rumor the other day on Twitter that Trudeau was training the Chinese to invade the United States. Like, you know what I mean? And this was started by the Rebel, which is like the Rebel rag, the Rebel newspaper, which is like Fox News, but worse. It's a tabloid.
Yeah.
But people believe, and they are writing, and it's terrible. I would think that in spite that we are close because of Facebook and all of that, and I can see you and all of my friends and all of that, like, I believe that is detrimental and it should disappear, and let's go back to when we didn't know that much,
It's considering that this is considered the information age, I think it's more like the disinformation age, because no one really checks sources anymore, which is an unfortunate thing. Anyone knows who...
Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's just how much Canada is not getting along with China at this point. The idea that we'd be working together with them to take down the States is ludicrous.
No, today on QAnon, QAnon, today they said that the Chinese invaded the United States by the Canadian main border. So this is, and people believe this. People believe that we are abiding an invasion to the United States when if we invade them, they cut our cable, and then we are screwed. We are screwed. They cut our entertainment.
Oh well, yeah, but we can cut power, which would black out most of the East Coast.
Oh, that's true.
Right, like that happened when the ice storm hit Montreal. Like, it was the power lines going down here had New York. Well, then again, the Trumpites aren't going to be concerned about New York going dark.
No,
but pretty much almost all the way down to Florida lost power because we were no longer supplying it to them.
Oh yeah, that's true. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
That's a good thought to have.
Not that that's a threat, all right, just for any Trumpites that are tuning in to study up on the enemy. But this is So you've been writing a lot about that comedy-wise, but what is your writing structure? I know watching your comedy, I feel that you're very much a storyteller, and you usually have the twists. You're one of your classic jokes about the fact that you came from Nicaragua to Quebec because of
because some people cannot get enough political instability in a lifetime.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I am from Nicaragua, and because some people cannot get enough political instability in a lifetime, I moved to Quebec. Yes. I had forgotten it. It's just that that this pandemic I have to review. You know, I have to go and review my material because it's all just like alphabet soup in my head, like things that you knew. That you have instinctively in you, because I do shows like in non-pandemic, I do 4 shows a week, and many times of those shows, and sometimes I do on Monday and Tuesday too. I go out to the little rooms. This has been like boom, like we were here, and now I have done maybe on stage 4 shows, and the Zoom. What you have to do is keep writing and looking at your material, whatever video you have of your material, listening to it, so you don't forget it, and increasing the volume of your act. But for me, it's very difficult not to refer to what we are living. I always talk in whatever I'm living, I'm going through, and unfortunately, we are going through the Rona now. You know.
Yeah. The Rona.
The Rona. We're going through the Rona, and we're going through the Rona internationally. And people really, I don't think they want to listen to it, but it's the elephant in the room.
Yeah, it's been changing. It's been like a game changer internationally, like globally. This is something that has affected everyone. Even New Zealand, even if that was just sort of a blip for them, because they have like a smart leader, but
a woman,
definitely, who believes in science and took the measures, and there was no lip back from well, there was some lip back from the country. New Zealand is a very macho country. On top of that, but they had no problem listening to a smart woman give them the advice that they needed to get through that. And,
but don't you think that they could also get through that quicker because they are an island?
True. I mean, Newfoundland is now is an island here in Canada, but they're having troubles. It's beginning to spike there now. Yeah.
Somebody brought it. That's the thing.
And so it's visitors. Yeah.
It's the visitors. It's like here when they close Toronto and Vaughan, then people go and have their haircuts or have their shopping in York, in the York region. Then they will close there. Then they go to the Durham. It's been happening.
Yeah.
And I'm not seeing how would I say? I'm not seeing the light. I am just in denial in a way, living day by day the pandemic life. Trying to do my 1,000 steps. Yeah,
I have a roommate who's immunosuppressed, so I have to be very careful. It's like I'm not going out. There's only one of us that is going out to any of the grocery stores, etc. So it's been trying.
Are you under lockdown too in Montreal?
We are. In Montreal, they call them red zones. So we're at level 4, which is the highest level, and they're talking about shutting down everything as of December 24th until January 11th. So I don't know if that means restaurants as well, but anything that's not.
You mean you have restaurants open now?
We have restaurants open for takeout only.
Oh yeah, we do too. But everything is closed. Like if you want, one of my trips when I go out is to Rexall's, because just to alleviate my desire of shopping.
Yeah, you got to be pretty desperate to buy something at the Rexall's.
Otherwise, I go buy, like I had the roots coming out, so I go buy that. I'm experimenting with my hair.
So I've had the roots coming out as well. So it's a little bit I haven't had a haircut since February.
But I met you with a ponytail.
Yes,
that's how I remember. That's how I remember you, with the pushing me in. Like I remember you taking care of me before the show, the Just for Laugh, and just pushing me on the stage. Like it's your turn.
I don't think I physically pushed.
No, you didn't push, but I mean, you like patted me. It's your turn. Go. Go now. Like very, very loving. That's what I remember. And of course, you doing comedy. And I remember you came from Halifax, right? Or from
Yes.
Newfoundland? From Halifax.
Yeah.
Halifax. Do you go back to Halifax?
I haven't been this year, but yeah, I do. I do go back. I mean, I have a lot of family there, so it's sort of important. My daughter just bought a house.
Your daughter?
Yeah.
How old is your daughter?
She is 27. I'm a bad dad.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
27. We are old. Our ass is old.
Yeah.
A 27-year-old child, and I was
29-year-old.
I was about to ask you, how is your daughter?
Yeah. Yeah.
I was also asking. I imagine a little daughter, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's she's married. She's got a wonderful husband who treats her well.
That's great.
Yeah, and they bought a house sort of in the country at this point.
Wow! So you have a place to crash.
Yeah,
basically.
They understood the nature of my career, so when they bought the house, they said, by the way, there's a spare room, so if you need a place to live, so it's that kind of confidence.
There is a place, yes. Yes.
Now, you mentioned that you make sure that you spend time writing. Do you spend, like, how much time every day do you spend writing? Is there a structure to it, or...?
Yes, it is. You know why? Because I have noticed that the more you like, I had to give a script out for Winnipeg, because the applications for Winnipeg, and they give you themes.
Yes.
For the galas, and I decided, since I am home, I'm gonna write for all of the themes, and then you start and you see it, and then you don't like, and then you place, and then I write for my other show for the When Feminists Rule the World, in which I interview feminists from around the world, women that are creating policy. Because I got the gig from the Nobel Women's Initiative. I hang out with Nobel Peace Prize winners, Paul.
Congratulations.
Can you? I cannot say that we are in first name basis, but they are the boss of me. So they know all of these interesting women, and I interview them. And I basically the person that doesn't know anything about what I'm asking, but I have to research. They send me whatever these women like. There is a woman fighting killer robots. So I have found out a lot about killer robots, and then I've been writing bits about killer robots, interesting things that are nothing to do with me. But that's the way I read a lot to be able to write. I read a lot, and me and Linda, my wife, we try to live.
Yeah.
We live in a small apartment in Toronto, and she works at home, which she never did before, because of the pandemic. So I have learned that I have to keep quiet from 9 to 5. So I don't drive her crazy. But I haven't learned that well, because sometimes I forget that she's working, and then, hey, do you want to watch the Bee Gees documentary tonight? I am working.
Yeah, no, yeah. My partner's working from home as well, and so I've had to learn to wait until like it's a meal time or etc. to kind of interrupt between meetings.
Yes, but you say about writing. I write about 1 hour a day. But if I have time, and time I have these days, because I don't go to the gym, I don't do anything the things that I usually do during the 25 hours that I have to kill before my show at night. Because you know that we kill time. Yeah.
Well, you're spending the time reading. Reading is research, whether or not it's actually beforehand, and spending the hour writing and then editing as well. Does that hour include taking time to edit stuff, or do you do that separately? No, so
separately, but it's difficult. Remember, it's difficult that I don't. When I do my jokes, they are not necessarily as they are written, because it's performance, right? So whenever I transcribe, it's difficult. So I have remember me since when I began doing comedy that I have always taped myself, always.
Yes. Yeah.
With the
Always.
with big ass cameras,
The big.
with the little
Yeah.
DVDs. I have tubs of things that I have been meaning to digitalize and put, not to put it out there, but to extract material that maybe didn't work in those days. And maybe now that I know how to, everything is a stand-up comedy. You never finish learning.
No.
No.
Definitely.
And then you find out that the Genzers, Generation Z that do comedy think that you're trash. They think that your style of comedy is out of fashion because you make people laugh. That is not the objective of comedy, according to them.
Yeah, there is. Well, okay, what? How would you define your style of comedy?
I define storytelling, but I do have setups and punch hidden in the stories. Yeah. I tell a story, but there is always a setup and a punchline, and I admire rather. I always admire the storytellers. I admire Derek Edwards. Yeah. I admire Ron James.
Yeah.
Ron James is so brilliant with the words, and I admire wordsmithery, like they say, wordsmith.
Yeah.
I admire that, and this is not my language, so I have had to really be diligent in learning.
How many languages do you speak?
4.
4. And how many have you performed comedy in?
In the 4.
All 4.
All 4. But it's difficult when you are not always. Like when I was in Montreal, I would speak French. But when you're not always speaking the language, it's difficult to have the turns of phrase, to have it's not the same being only bilingual, but you have to be bicultural.
Yes.
And I admire, whom? Mike Patterson.
Because he makes a joke about how bad his French is. That's part of his charm when he's performing in French.
Well, like I do in English.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I could do it, but now that there is a club to do it in French, the Mike Ward's club, I could perfectly commute from the English to the French, but here in Ontario, it's not possible. I have done it in corporate shows for the government.
Right.
Yeah.
Now you do a good number of corporate shows. Have you done any of the corporate Zooms?
Yes.
Yeah.
I do the corporate Zooms, so I'm being judged on camera. Because on the corporate shows, in fact I have one on the 18th. I had one last week. All of my Christmas shows they have commute to the Zoom, and then you're like you're doing the show, and it's like I say, it's difficult for me to talk about how would I say how do you say trivial things. And to say my jokes, not acknowledging that we are in this box, on this doing this. So that's what I do. I have an acknowledgement of that we are doing this, and then I pull up my collection of masks that I have in all of the things that I have bought in Amazon that I don't need, and I have made Jeff Bezos a billionaire because I needed a unicorn hat. Why not? I'm preparing for the apocalypse. So I bring the elephant in the room at that moment. But the corporate shows are usually difficult because of the things you can't and cannot say.
Yeah. Are you task writing when you are going to be doing a corporate show? Do you research the company, or do you ask them to send you stuff so you can tailor your jokes to them?
Yes, but then you tailor a little bit. Let's say not the whole act has to be tailored for them. You tailor a little bit, and then you move on, because they don't want to be hearing about the company all night. But they appreciate that you take the time to dedicate a little bit to their company. But I learned to do that by doing the road. I always did 5 minutes in the town about the town where I went. I learned about the cow. They worship a cow in in Woodstock, Ontario. There is a cow in the. I learned little trivia about the little towns that I went, and people feel appreciated. But corporate is also more serious. It's more politically correct, especially if it's the government. But I have never been politically incorrect. Like I have never been to the extreme. No, you cannot say this. But I have never been also derogatory in my head. Although some people have found things that I have said derogatory, and they have told me so after the shows.
There's always somebody at some point, and one of the things you probably lose a little bit doing the Zooms is part of your charm on stage is you will often do an aside to a particular audience member, and you might mention something about something that happened. Well, in your cocaine joke that you referenced earlier, talking about the 1930s, and then you turn to anyone with white hair, going, "You remember, sir? Just
remember." Yes, that is lost. The banter with the audience is lost, especially because on Zooms the audience believes that they can just yell anything, that they can just sometimes, according to the younger comics who do a lot of Zoom, trolls.
Yeah,
they get there on purpose to insult people. So a lot of people choose not to. They choose to mute the audience, so we don't hear anybody laughing. Yeah. So it's complicated. I'm learning how to perform to silence. In other words, I can go bomb everywhere. Yeah.
So, yes, silence with confidence. At least you're not hearing the crickets.
Yeah, at least I'm not hearing unless I want to, right?
There is. Do you have any like sort of formulas? I know you mentioned you're making sure you have your setup punches in your stories. The taking the 5 minutes. That's actually like that's a Derek Edwards lesson. That's like he's the person I sort of like attribute that piece of knowledge to. But when you are writing, how are you looking for structure? I know that you said that you don't do word for word. You sort of just you remember why it's funny to you, so you can express that humor to the crowd.
No, I do word for word when it comes, because you know that if you take a lot, especially me that I have an accent, if I ramble a lot, I lose their attention. So it is very structured, but let's say there is not word by word,
right?
Very structured. Although I know and I know the punchline has to come, because punchlines are surprises, right?
Right.
So there is a lot of technique in a way that I learned from books and whatnot, and there is a lot of experience. Nothing. I think stand-up comedy is experience. Nothing. Nothing substitutes experience.
Experience.
Yeah, I learned at the beginning. You learn from the others, right? So because with Yak Yaks, they send you to tour with the headliners, and so I would make a point to watch the 4 shows of the headliner, even if I didn't like them, to watch all the shows, because that's the only way that you learn how to be the fake spontaneity that you have in stand-up comedy. That you know that when he said something, he sounded so brilliant, but it's something that he says or she says. Or they say. And that's the way you learn, by watching the others. The one thing that I criticize many times about new comedy is that the kids learn from their peers, from their amateur night peers. So it's like learning from somebody that doesn't know how to drive. You repeat their mistakes. Yeah, you have to watch. I always advise to the youngsters, watch stand-up comedy in a club, a headliner, for somebody with experience, whether you like him or not. Because no matter if you watch 300 hours of Netflix, that is not spontaneous.
You don't feel a crowd, which is, when you're doing it live, you kind of have to.
Yeah, the crowd. That's what I crave. We are like vampires in reality. That's what I crave, the crowd. But I like. I want to be alive. Let's say.
Yes.
I don't crave it that much. I have had the opportunities to go do shows in Oshawa, but at the end I said no, because I mean they booked me and then I changed my mind because Oshawa was open. The Yak Yaks in Oshawa was open, but then I thought I had to travel with a comic that I don't know how strict their bubble is.
Yeah.
My bubble is my wife and my cats, and that's it, in the supermarket and the lady at Rexall. That's all. That's all. That's and the homeless, because there is unfortunately in my street on Church Street. I don't live on Church, but I live in the area. On Church Street, there are a lot of homeless now, and and mentally ill or homeless, screaming. Not only one, screaming. And I so Linda, my partner, she sends me with little with little plastic bags, plastic steel bags with change. So I give them change. I go, and then I said, but I'm not gonna know anymore. Like in the summertime, you can't tell who I'm not really gonna know, because people sometimes you dress in rags. I'm not gonna know who the homeless are. And then she tells me, well, ask them, do you have a postal code? No. Okay, so here is some coinage to you. They say I say to her, people are gonna think that I'm nuts too. And then she says, no, they're gonna think you're the angel of change. She gives me, Linda, I've been with her for 10 years, and she gives me amazing lines because I mean, this is her language. So I run things by her, and she always has like a twist. I should credit her. My comedy improved greatly because of her.
As an out woman who's been performing, have you found that attitudes in Canada has changed
towards gay people?
Towards gay people since you started performing.
Well, I wasn't out at the beginning. Okay. I wasn't out because it was difficult for me. Remember, I started in '95. It's not that I was in. I had a husband, but it was my husband for immigration. And I can say that because the statute of limitation is over. So I talk about that, but I seldom talk relationships in my act. I always, that's why maybe I am very silly in my act and stuff, because I never talk relationships. I talk about me. I talk about things that bother me, like my weight, like my accent, and then my travels. But so I was never in. I was never in. But I came out like in 2005, maybe.
Okay.
But I come out very casually. I don't dwell. I just talk like a person that has a relationship with somebody of my same sex. What I have noticed really in audiences since Trump became president, like in places like Niagara Falls, where there are Americans, or Windsor, or like border towns, I noticed that there was a lot more racism. Like I never noticed, like Canada, maybe in Canada we know that racism is passive aggressive. They will hide it, but I was like I was their friend. I always felt that I become their friend because I'm unthreatening. Right. In a way. But in the last 4 years, I knew that in certain jokes I had to watch my step. For example, there was a woman, a Trump supporter in the crowd, and I said to her, well, I didn't start this fight. He hates everything I am. I am a woman, I am a lesbian, and I am Latina, I am a lesbian, and I am fat. I am practically Rosie O'Donnell. I am the trifecta of everything he hates. He hates Latinos, he hates gay people, he hates fat people. And then she laughed. And from then on, we became friends. And at the end, she wanted to hug me, which I reluctantly did because I didn't know that if she had a knife, ready.
And also being a bit of a germaphobe, too.
Exactly. But there are a lot now, currently, there are a lot of what they call safe rooms. I don't know if you're aware about that, in which the bookers put no homophobia, no racism, no misogyny, no, a lot of no. Yeah. And those rooms are good for certain people because maybe people that would go triggered or that had a lot of problems about that would not go to quote unquote normal clubs because of whatever they could hear. But I cut my teeth as the only Latin woman in the Yak Yaks roster, the only person with an accent, and one of the few women touring. I cut my teeth that way, so nothing really. I learned how to deal with all of those things, but
being like in Toronto and how central Toronto is to the entertainment industry, are there? Can you name some comedians who impress you now, like who are, or pre-COVID at least, that you think are rising stars?
Young comics. Well, who would I say? There are a lot. And now there are a lot of comics with accents too. There is Carol Zoccoli, Brazilian. There is Hisham Kelati, who is African. I don't want to say the wrong part where he is because I don't remember at the moment. And there are several comics who have an accent. There are some great new comics, but I cannot tell you at the top of my head a name at the moment because I don't sleep and I don't remember things. Or maybe it's dementia. Dementia. I don't know. I love Carol Zoccoli, the Brazilian girl. I love Ana Maria Stojic.
Yes.
I think I'm pronouncing well her name. I love Robbie Hoffman from Montreal.
Yep.
But Robbie is already an Emmy winner. She's no young comic. She's now better. She's now in a higher echelon than we are. Who else do I love? I love Kyle Brownrigg.
Yes.
Kyle Brownrigg. I love Marito Lopez, my child. You know Marito? Little Marito Lopez?
No, I don't think I've seen them.
Yeah, I love Nigel
Grinstead.
Nigel Grinstead. I love all those comics. There are a lot of good comics, and then by the same token, there are a lot of horrendous comics, in the sense that because of that they think that they are being badass. So they just go and run for forever, not one laugh, and they think that that's the style of comedy. You know?
No, they're trying to show that they're clever because they can say things that are offensive. Basically, the edgelords.
The edgelords. No, but you know what I do with the edgelords? I have had arguments like this because yes, I am all for freedom of speech. You can say whatever the hell you want, but that goes for me too.
Yeah.
I can tell you whatever the hell you want, and then I'm gonna go to your Facebook profile. I'm gonna get a picture of your mother or your daughter or your girlfriend, and I'm gonna say that they look like an alligator. See how much you like it. Immediately they go, I want to shut your mouth. You know, like it's the same way that you think that you can say anything. I can say that it bothers me. I don't know why people gets mad, but they get mad because now we minorities have a mouth. We can answer. Before they could get away with saying whatever, with saying and comedians that I used to love before. peers rather that I used to like. There are some that I unfriended because of their passion for this in the transgender, and because of the passion of just saying queer, fag. No, queer is not that bad. I mean, dyke, fag, tranny, and thinking that is avant-garde. You're not Bill Hicks. You're not Doug Stanhope. You're not any of the badass comics because you say those things. And since we are a community in which there are those minorities, is like it's not that I am politically correct or advocate for that, but you're dissing my friends.
Yeah.
You know.
Well said.
Yeah.
Now, what's how do you feel about the CASC, the Canadian Association of Stand-Up Comics, and the work that they're doing?
I didn't. Well, I think that it's great that they are doing that work, but I think that it is. How do I say? It has been difficult. Yeah. It has been difficult for them to say that, to establish rather that stand-up comedy is an art. Although I think that it is an art. They are doing great things though, in the sense that they have the medical insurance, which Scott Falconbridge was the one who brought it to them, and it's an uphill battle, but I think that eventually it may take off. You know,
to have it recognized, so comedians can apply for grants the same way that theater shows could, or or playwrights could.
But that's another thing. I have applied for grants, and I have got grants on the not huge grants, but developing grants. To research and write my one-person show, not to perform. Yeah. They don't pay for anything like that. Getting a grant is so difficult. I mean, first of all, there is an art in applying for a grant, and my only critique about the Canadian, the association, the CASC, is that young people that have been on stage like 2-3 times not developed, they believe that tomorrow they can get a grant. That is, I don't know how they do it in French Canada, that they have a union and all that. What is your take on that?
My take, the thing is, it's been in Quebec for such a long time. It's no longer the Wild West. People kind of know the rules or the standards and practices to go with it, and because of that, it's leveled out. Like in the beginning, once we get that kind of recognition, there might be a bunch of wild things happening, but then it's going to set into a routine that everyone is going to be more or less aware of the rules, and we can all work together as a community. The hardest part with organizing comedians is all it takes is one comic to undercut somebody else to get a room or to get a show, and for a booker to be less concerned about quality and more concerned about the dollar, value. So if I can get a hack comic for half the price of a true artist, then I'll put on the show with that guy, because I'll still sell the tickets, because people in Canada don't know, no one knows a comedian's name. And that's kind of one of the things that CASC is trying to change, is they want the Canadian performers to be recognized.
But for example, I'm not to interrupt you.
No.
I think that's why in French Canada works, because the supply is a lot less than in English Canada. In English Canada, anybody underdog becomes a comedian. So if I don't want to do a show because I have qualms about the money that you want to pay me, another person will do it.
Yeah.
For the half. That's what it is. I believe that French Canada has a less supply of comedians. I don't know if that has changed. Has that changed?
Well, they have l'école de humour. I think they have. I think they actually probably have more comedians on a per capita basis Like, if you just count heads, they have less, but that's because that province isn't the total, of Canada. And it's also they're slightly more homogeneous in culture than Canada is. I mean, Alberta comics have a flavor. Toronto comics have a flavor. The Maritimes have a flavor. And just like in Montreal, that's one of the reasons why, comedians coming in who don't understand the Montreal culture have a trouble sometimes adapting to the Montreal audiences. Is because each city has its own sort of flavor. The audience that the comedians who grow up sort of also grow the audience. So when people are learning about what to expect from a comedy show, they learn from their locals. So a guy like Joey Elias, who is like Montreal's comedy king,
the quintessential.
Audiences will expect that's what comes from a comedian, because also the younger comics are coming up, they sort of emulating Joey, right, and Joey's style, because that's what the audiences are reacting to. Then you get an angry comic, from Toronto, where they just stand behind the mic and they don't move at all. They just, and they rail about the things that they hate. They come to Montreal and then they discover that Montreal audience are going, that's a pretty harsh attitude. Are you okay? Like it doesn't have that same flavor.
No, it is different.
Now, funny's funny, so it does work.
It does work. Yeah, but I mean, I'm happy that I started out in Montreal, because I was a minority within a minority, allophone that they call. But it took a while to really adapt to Ontario. Like it's a lot more cutthroat. I don't know now, but when I started in Montreal, there were very few comics, Anglophones. They were like that clique. And then here is a lot more people. There is a lot more that they can say. Well, and working with Yak Yaks was like boot camp, because if you don't cut it on the road, they just have other people to put on.
Yeah.
And that's what I think that maybe the problem would be for the association. Who determines who is a comedian? Because what I have heard with the association, I have heard from the newbies that they thought that the association would just ask a booker to pay them for the spot, not for the quality. To pay, like, you don't pay less than, let's say, $120 for opening. And maybe you're very new. It's like, what is a comic and what is not a comic? How do you establish rank? How do you establish seniority? I don't know how the French Canadians do it, but there must be a way. But it's not. We are not there yet.
Yeah. I think it's when the rules kind of get set. I think it's sort of like, what they're asking is, if a booker is putting on a show, these are the minimum rates for that amount of time or that position. Like, be it the host, or be it the middle, or be it the feature. And an established comic, a good comic with a following, can come in and say, well, I want more than that to do that position. But if a booker goes and pays somebody less than the established rate, then all the comedians have to say no to that booker for future bookings, which is going to be sort of the hard part. Once it gets established that we can do that, then the bookers have to respect the rates. It's sort of like saying you're like, you've worked on films. You know the difference between ACTRA and a non-union film. Yeah. Right? So ACTRA gives you a certain level of protections, and it gives you a certain rate. But the thing is, if the film is not giving you that guaranteed rate, then it doesn't have access to ACTRA level performers.
No, exactly.
So that's what CASC is trying to establish with, to my understanding, with the Canadian Union of stand-up comedians.
Well, I hope that it does take off. I know that they were working with ACTRA at one point. That they well, if it does take off, I hope that is a good thing,
Yeah, the francophone comedians are part of the UDA, which is French ACTRA in Quebec. So any French production has those standards, and the UDA, like ACTRA is for film and television, UDA is for stage, film, and television. So they cover pretty much everything that's, I don't know if they include music or not, but they include all of those things. So they have set rates. That's one of the reasons why at Le Bordel the headliner sets are like, they don't really have headlining sets. They have shorter sets, even by established comics, not because the comics can't do the time, but if they do the time, then they should be bumped up into a higher pay bracket, which a small club can't support.
Yeah.
So it's sort of a trade-off. Is they do these shorter sets to be workout sets, and that's how they can establish as a club. Wow, we just got a bunch of people tuning in. Say hi. Say where you're watching from. Click the like button. We got to do all this wonderful stuff.
This is a great thing. It's better than the Zoom.
Thank you. This is well, it's not mine. I don't want to say thank you. I use StreamYard. StreamYard is a great product. They don't pay me. I actually have to pay them, but it's there is a free version available. But StreamYard, if somebody comments on, say, YouTube or on Twitter, people are watching us on Twitter, by the way. We can actually put their comments up like this here. So StreamYard is the company. If anyone's interested in hosting their own video podcast like this or video live stream, connect with me and I can get you a discount for signing up.
Oh, and I may sign up. I may start doing shows on my own.
Yeah.
And inviting all of my friends from all across the world that I have, because I do comedy in Spanish too. Mm-hmm. So I could invite the Guatemalan comics that I taught. I taught comedy in Guatemala, and now they teach. Last year when I got to Guatemala, they were teaching already stand-up comedy, and they were good students. I'm telling you, I'm proud of my Guatemalan students. But the thing is, again, there were no stage time. You can't grow without a stage time. It's not a culture. Latin America is only awakening to stand-up. Mm-hmm. So the best place now is in Costa Rica. Is what is more established. Right. But and they do it in big theaters but I don't think there are comedy clubs per se. It's not a culture yet. It's not a thing that people do. Mm-hmm. Maybe I will retire in Guatemala and open my own comedy club. and apply all of everything I have learned from comedy clubs owners.
Now I didn't realize that you also ran a course. What for if anyone's watching this to learn about writing comedy, what advice from your course would you give?
I would say exactly what I told you. You have to watch a lot of stand-up comedy live, which in the pandemic is not applicable anymore. And you have to read books about a structure. Before, it's like painting. Picasso, before learning to make the weird women and everything, he learned to paint like classically. In order to deconstruct, you have to learn how to build. And there are blocks, there are ABCs like the Judy Carter book, Jay Sankey book to learn how Jim Medrinos to learn how to write a joke and then you learn on your own. You start learning on your own of how to milk a premise and also write about what you know. Yeah, that's why I only write about myself. But lately I have been remembering childhood experiences, and I realized that I talk a lot about when I was a child and about religion. I have like 3 galas of Winnipeg in which my religious bits make it. Yeah. And it's just about religions from the eyes of a child. And people like that. like when I was growing up, and when we used to go to the procession of the Passion of the Christ, what was happening and stuff like that, and
Yes.
and because you can't just talk about Tinder.
No.
Especially when you didn't even have any idea what Tinder is. Like me, I have never been on Tinder.
So you're happy. Okay.
I am happy. I am a happy person. I've been in a 10 years relationship and we never fight because my wife is white. That's why our success is based on the color of our skin. That's the foundation. She doesn't steal my foundation. I hate to share my makeup. I hate to share my makeup. I am a germaphobe. And I don't steal her foundation either, because if I put her foundation, I will look like if I'm going to Marie Antoinette's ball. So, you know. See, I just squeezed a joke right there.
You did.
Yeah,
And we are we've been at this for an hour. Normally, this is just a 30-minute with a little extra show. This has been fantastic.
Thank you.
Have you had fun here, Martha?
Have I what?
Have you had fun?
Oh, I had a lot of fun. I love talking about comedy. Comedy is my passion. And I am studying lately, I'm studying a lot of what is happening new, because you have to keep relevant. I mean, you don't have to change your style to adapt to what is new happening, but you have to enlighten yourself with all the new trends.
Now, before we go, if anyone watching has any questions, please just type them in the chat. I notice that, we have a good number of people watching. I'm just they haven't been commenting. Now, you have your website, but it's currently under reconstruction at this point.
Yes, because I need to vamp it up, and I haven't found somebody to do it. If you have somebody, please send it to me their name.
Mob Boss Joe is she's the one that does the website for
Mob Boss, yeah. I'm gonna ask her. I'm gonna ask her about that. Yeah.
That's her prime job. And your CD is Chunky Salsa.
Yes.
So it's on all the platforms if anyone wants it. And now one of the things we touched on a little bit with Mango Mussolini, but with everything else that's happened in the States, and you are huge with human rights and looking for protection and making sure that they are voiced. I haven't asked you about the Black Lives Matter movement at all. Do you have any hopes? Do you think that with Biden there's going to be positive change in the States? What sort of changes do you envision happening? You
know what? I think that I have grown to be a cynic. And cynical about a lot of things, and I do hope that something positive is coming, but and I do hope that with all of the members of POC members in the cabinet, there will be some positive changes concerning the rights of people of color, especially Black people. I have been studying since the whole Black Lives Matter thing. I have been reading a lot about it, about the civil rights movement, about the poets of the time, like James Baldwin and Langston Hughes. Because if you think about it, if you just think about it, Black people didn't have the right to vote until maybe 60 years ago. Yeah. When was it? So, if I were Black, I would be thinking, all I want is justice. But because if I wanted vengeance, I would be burning your city to the ground.
Yeah.
I mean, how is it possible that they can kill people in their sleep?
Yeah.
And they can kill it with impunity. Now, I don't know. People think that that Biden is very progressive, but Biden was Mr. Iraq War.
Yeah.
He voted like I do hope, but it's not that I think it's the second coming, and besides they have to deal with the pandemic. So
you mentioned earlier about not really finding racism was more passive aggressive, except for in border towns in the last 4 years.
Towards my experience as a comic, but I have been finding out, like when I went as a delegate of the Nobel Women's Initiative, I was still talking about in my act, oh, Canada is the best place in the universe, it's multicultural and all that. But when I went with them, and I went with Tantu Cardinal, who is an indigenous actor who was advocating for water near the tar sands in Fort McMurray and all that, and I started reading about indigenous issues here in Canada. I discovered that that paradise, that adoptive mother that Canada has been for me, because Canada embraced me like I was a refugee. My adopted mother used to beat up her own children. You know what I mean? So it's been an awakening. I know that we have a lot to work for here in Canada too. It's not perfect. We are better than them. We are better than in the United States, but for so many people, for indigenous people especially, this is a very oppressive system.
What's happening in Nova Scotia in the past 2 months has been very telling as well. There's a book, if I can recommend it to you, and it's called "Why I Hate Canadians."
Oh, I'm gonna write it down right now. Why I Hate Canadians?
Yeah, by Will Ferguson, and it's a great sort of treatise on what it is about what is the national identity of Canada, and part of it is the fact is, well, we're not as bad as the States. And forgetting that Aboriginals exist. It's a comedic treaty, but like a take, and he sort of calls us out on a lot of our myths.
Oh, I'm gonna read it for sure.
Yeah,
I have time. We have time. That's the thing, like my heart breaks to see so much pain and so much people losing their livelihood, including us artists. Mm-hmm. But people closing, people becoming homeless, people like there is. But on the other hand, if you only see that, you're gonna go mental, and I'm already there. Like it's not that I have to push myself alone. I'm already there. But you have to concentrate in the good aspect. We have a lot of time to do things that we didn't have time to do before. And another thing is, we don't need anything. We don't need shopping for Christmas. We don't need, like, the Bay keeps sending me brochures about the clothes that are in style, shoes that are in style. Where the hell am I gonna go? I'm not going anywhere. Like, fuck you and your style. To just go around the house. And so all of this crazy capitalism that we have to buy. Let's forget it for a while.
But the last pair of shoes I've worn for 1,000 steps. That's it.
That's it. No, I have like I am Imelda Marcos. I have like I only wear one. Like my shoes never waste. They never. How do you say it? They never wear out because I have so many. It's crazy, But at the moment I have nowhere to go. Where am I gonna go?
Martha, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you.
Yes.
I think we're going to just wrap this up. For those of you watching, please find Martha Chavez. Her website will be up and fixed. If I know Mob Boss Joe,
I'm going to talk to her. And another thing I wanted to ask you.
Yes.
Follow me on Instagram. Comedian Martha Chavez with an S at the end.
Right there. Comedian Martha Chavez.
And on Facebook. Instagram. On my Facebook page.
Facebook as well. So it's if you search for Comedian Martha Chavez on Facebook, with putting in the spaces, you'll be able to find her on Facebook.
I am on Twitter, but I'm not very good at Twitter. I think on Twitter, yes, you have to pick.
You have to focus. You have to be uploading every.
Yeah, and also I tweet in English and Spanish, and it's like I haven't found like a huge audience on Twitter. It's a different game.
That's one of the things I've actually kind of learned doing these. This is episode 31, I believe, with you, Martha, and it's for every person who hits like, that means there's 21 more people that will be introduced to you. But at the same time, though, if you're putting up, like for YouTube, if you put up different types of content on one channel, The other content will be recommended to the people, but if they pass on it because it's not either in their language or it's not the same style of show that they're looking for, then that sort of ends up burying your channel. So for those of you who are watching, please press like on this because this really helps out the channel. That's why I keep on asking people to hit like and subscribe.
This is a YouTube channel?
I'm switching over to a new YouTube channel just for They Talk Funny. But I have my base YouTube channel this is going out to. We are broadcasting right now, Marta, on 5 different channels. We are live on Facebook. We have my base Paul Ash channel on YouTube. But we also are on the They Talk Funny YouTube channel. We're also on my Paul Ash Twitter. Right now, people are watching us on Twitter. I can see there's one person watching on Twitter right now.
I wanted to... So, sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Well, I'm going to contact you privately because I don't even have a YouTube channel. And I have like an incredible amount. I tape all of my shows. I have an incredible amount of things. I cannot put my Just for Laughs. We are not allowed to put our clips from Just for Laugh or from...
Just for Laughs has clips of you up right now, so they probably wouldn't want the competition.
No, they don't. But I have good professional tapes that I have taped myself. Mm-hmm. I want to have like a show that I run. I want to have presence on the YouTube. Like I'm so old that I call it the YouTube.
The YouTube.
The YouTube, but I haven't. It's something that I haven't dedicated myself. So don't look at me on the YouTube. But I will have one after. Maybe you can guide me, Paul, on that.
It will be my pleasure. It'll be my pleasure. It's simple. It's very simple.
Okay.
Okay. So, thank you, Martha. Thank you for everybody who's out there.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
My pleasure. Everyone, have a good night. We're waving goodbye.
Goodbye. Adios. Take care.